Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of Just Us with Khutso and Emily. And this is our show where we get to talk about everyday events in a way that unites the world. So, Emily, hi.
Hello. It's been a long time.
It feels like it's been a while because we used to do this every single week, and now we decided, given other priorities and our desire to make this better quality show, we do it, once a month, maybe twice a month. So yeah, this is a treat, isn't it?
It is a treat. I've missed our show. We need a good chat. Time to dig into some topics that we have been talking about all month, but haven't really had the time to really dig into.
Yeah, truly. Well, we keep swapping messages between New Zealand and South Africa, swapping notes over this and that. Did you see that? How are you feeling today? Are you also feeling miserable? So, we're hoping to bring some of that into the show today.
This is the one that I don't get. I don't get how our kids can be sick at the same time when we are across the ocean from each other, both with the tummy bug. I mean, come on now.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, somehow our lives are way too parallel.
Yeah. Well, to give our listeners, our viewers, a bit of context, what happened this week was I had a bit of a meltdown. I had a breaking point of sorts, and part of it had to do with the fact that my kids started school, and then one or both of them started to get sick. And so they had to be out of school. And then the very next day, Emily's kids got sick too. And we know they're not sharing any love, right? Because they're oceans apart. But,
It's and then to add to our parallel lives, I had my breakdown of tipping points last week. And so we seem to be feeding off of each other. And so it made us think about, what made us get our business and how can we do it better next time?
Yeah. Emily, can you hear me okay? Because you're going in and out, like audio. The video from my end doesn't look very clear, and your audio keeps going in and out. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. There's an echo from your side.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to put on my headset and see if that helps. How's this? Is it a little better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Oh, okay.
There's no echo now.
Awesome. So breaking points, that's what we're talking about today. Our low points, only because, as Emily rightfully shared, both of us had our breaking points quite recently. We remember them very freshly, and they're nothing new, in the lives of our own selves ever so often.
Yeah.
Our girls gotta just, let it out and admit that, it's not a great day. So Emily, tell me, do you remember what triggered your last meltdown or breaking point? Like the way we call them meltdowns. This mom was like, when you've had a 3-year-old, it's like, yeah, having another meltdown? We're having meltdowns in our 40s, y'all.
Well, I think there's definitely a true difference between a meltdown and a breaking point. I think I might have meltdowns every week with the 4-year-old. But tipping myself over the edge where I totally lose my shit, you spend a lot of time trying to keep that together, right? You got to run a household, you got to run a business, you got to do your day job, you've got to do the daily life things, just dealing with people for various things, And it's a lot when you have kids, under a certain age in particular, it's a lot to keep your shit together, really. And so what tips you over the edge? And for me, we here in New Zealand, there was a huge uncertainty of whether they were going to put us into a lockdown again. And I think the tipping point there was the sudden restriction on my freedom, that the anxiety and the fear around the complete loss of control and freedom to function in a normal capacity around all the other stuff you're trying to juggle with, right? Trying to juggle with all of that in an incredibly confined space just was overwhelming. And I can imagine that so many people can relate to that, where COVID just really hits our tipping point with all of the additional challenges that get thrown on our lap that we don't normally have to cope with. But we do have to cope with all of these other challenges, no matter what the external environment is. So
yeah.
I think there was, there's multiple factors, aren't there? The external and internal factors that bring you to this point of which.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with the external factors. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say, well, you already mentioned one external factor, and that had to do with the environment. A possible lockdown, which would mean, you're home alone, stuck with the kids for an indefinite amount. It might be short, but whatever the case, when you are told you cannot do something, when your freedoms are restricted, and I know that that is a trigger for me too. Anything, the minute you tell me I can't do something, that's when I have to do it. And right. When you're free spirited like you and I, Emily, I think I'm still. Yes, trust me. I had a very similar situation when we had our lockdown, and fortunately, we don't have to. Our lockdown has been eased to a large extent, but I was thinking external freedoms in a slightly different sense. Even choice of place to live. For me, I need to be able to choose where I want to live. I need to be able to choose how I spend my days, how I make money. Hence I started working for myself. But that also has its own complications, it can challenge your freedoms in a very different way. And this now was my trigger for my breakdown, recent one. Because, yes, there are restriction on space and movement and all of that, but there's also finance. There are also finances to worry about. When you work for yourself, you can never be sure where the next paycheck is going to come from. So I was obviously relieved. I have some clients and, they had paid and all of that, but I suddenly caught myself thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in 3 months? Do I know if I'm going to have any income at all in 3 months? And you work hard, but there are no guarantees in business. You have good months and bad months. And can we just skip the bad months, please? Because they're quite horrible. And when you're free spirited and at the same time you're type A personality where you like to be in charge, working for yourself can be quite tricky. It's the most enriching thing you can do, but can be also quite tricky because it means you have very little control over some elements. You don't know, your clients are going to come when they come and you do your best every day. You bust your ass, but it's not like in a job environment where you're going to get paid regardless. Right? So that to me is a trigger. It's an anxiety trigger. And I caught myself really spiraling out of control. That and just novelty. My kids started school, big school, my twins, 7 years old. And truly, I didn't realize what a big deal it was. I knew, it's exciting. They're excited. And truly, I am excited. But having to now adjust to all the rigors that go with it. I tell you, and this whole thing with uniform in South Africa, now I remember why I needed to flee the country. Because seriously, I am not coping with the whole uniform requirement thing. It's like you're suddenly having to spend inordinate amounts of money getting the kids ready for big school because you have to buy uniform, and it's not just one type of uniform. It's like this and that and this and that. And you see yourself spending all this much money on all, these things that you consider to be quite unnecessary, but are just what you have to do if you live in this country, right? Or if you take your kids to those schools. I know I could take them to a different school that doesn't have uniform, but I can't do that right now. I can't afford it right now, right? But anyway, long and short of it, restriction on freedom can come in very different ways. And and that to me is a big trigger, a big anxiety trigger. What were you going to say, Emily?
Well, it makes me think, a good friend of mine said as I was laying on the floor crying for 3 hours, she said to me, don't let your mind run away with you. And it's about trying to be in the now, isn't it? Because as you just said, you're worried about 3 months from now, but you have no idea what 3 months from now could look like. And that's exactly what makes your mind run away, because of the uncertainty, the anxiety around what potentially the worst case scenario, and your mind starts spiraling into that worst case scenario when you've lost your ability to maintain your frame of mind like we do on a normal day. And I think that, I don't think it shows weakness or that it's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's what we need every now and then. We need to have meltdowns. We need to have breakdowns to just let it all out, let out that tension, let out that frustration, let out that fear, and then build yourself back up even better next time, because you have released it and you now have new energy to be able to just jump forward with the next challenge. Because at the end of the day, life is hard and it may not get any easier, but it's here to stay, right? And so, especially when you have kids, you don't have time. That's what I kept telling myself. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to lay on the floor for 3 hours. I got to clean the house. I got to do this with my kids. I got to do this. I got to do that,
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
You got to allow
Yeah.
Oh, well,
okay. Well, shout out to my brother. I see he's watching. Hello, my daddy. Welcome. Thanks for thanks for sharing. And let me tell you, my brother knows quite a bit about my meltdowns. He's one of my folks around here. We keep swapping notes about parenting woes, as well as, woes around being a professional. And, he like me. He has, big goals in life. And it's not, it's not very easy to do sometimes, especially when you have kids. But you're right, Emily. It's good sometimes to just let it out, really let it out. And the way I was able to get out of it, my husband said to me, you know what? You just have to realize that, one, it's very normal. If you're an entrepreneur, these anxieties are going to kick in. And like you said, it's all about controlling your mind. Live in the moment. If you're focusing on what you're doing right now and really appreciating what you have right now, you don't have time to let your mind run away into the future, and you shouldn't allow it to.
Right.
So that whole thing, be in the present moment, I found that to be very, very helpful, and really be in the present moment in an appreciative sort of way. Be thankful for what you have, as opposed to, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here again. Or, try to reside in as much of a positive state of being as you can. in spite of everything else. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about finding, two things, one, identifying your triggers so you can perhaps not let yourself spiral out of control. And then the other is really allowing yourself to have those moments and then knowing how to bring yourself back, whether it's a certain person or a certain activity, whether if you need to go out and just do a run or sit and veg in front of the TV for 6 hours. I think everybody has a different mode of just decompressing.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to not allow yourself to have those moments.
And you know what? You said a really good point. Know your triggers. Know your triggers.
Yeah.
That is such a big one. Because then you know what to watch out for. When you catch yourself, being anxious about money again, you're like, okay, I've been here. I'm just not going to think about it. Or whatever else it is. That's a really good one. Of course, allow yourself to give yourself a break. Do whatever it takes to feel better. But also being able to know what your triggers are and deal with them as triggers. Just know it's a trigger.
Yeah. You just made me think of something and I'd forgot it. Know your triggers and darn it, I lost it. Totally lost it, but it'll come back.
Yeah, but now we're in internal factors already, and which is fine. I mean, we've identified. It seems like there are factors happening outside of us and factors that happen inside of us, and of the internal factors. There are triggers, like when you're worried about money all the time, but when you also, for us women, and I'm sure most women will agree, just time of the month, y'all. I'm sorry, I know we get a bad rep for time of the month, but there is a whole truth attached to it. Because and Emily, here's a joke. When you and I whinge to each other, when we feel like we're having our breakdowns, meltdowns, what do we always ask each other first? Are you PMSing?
Are you on your rag?
Isn't that time of the month? That's the first question we always ask each other. And we're always like, Sorry?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's when you can forgive yourself a bit. You're like, aha, I know what's going on here. It's nothing to do with me. It's my hormones. Oh, now I remember my thought from before. I remember it now. So if you're anything like me, and this also relates to being a woman, you don't want to show weakness. And so when I have my meltdown, more than anything, I was ashamed to reveal to others when I show myself as a strong and together woman. You don't want to show weakness. One, that your hormones can control you. Two, that you sometimes just can't cope with it all. And I find I have to let go of my ego a little bit. I don't know about you. And just accept and just I don't know. It's something that we as women tend to do because we get extra pressure because of, maybe being a woman, you get that reputation. And so you go to extra effort.
To be perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that. I don't do very well with vulnerability. Not at all. I'm not the kind, I think I'm pretty hard on myself because I expect myself to be on my A game all the time. And yes, it's really hard. It's really hard. And we make it even harder for ourselves. Putting on a front is a lot more work than just melting down. Because now there is the raw emotions. And then on top of that, you're doing more work by covering it up. So yeah, you know what? I guess it takes a lot of bravery to just expose yourself and just be vulnerable, and ask for help, just call a friend
Yeah.
or, your support
Yeah.
system. Just be like, listen, whoo, not a good day.
Yeah. That makes me think about our, maybe we're merging conversations here a bit, but I think it does lead into one of those important conversations that we had around vulnerability and allowing yourself to be humble and to not let judgment or your perceived judgment of yourself come into play. And that's where I'm headed here is, I think with age, you gain that confidence that if you're in, let's say you're in a meeting or you're in a work environment where you might feel intimidated because you may not be as high ranked, or you may be new in that space, or you may not feel like you technically know the subject area, to just allow yourself to ask questions and to just not hide from the possibility that you might not know an answer, or you might not be able to solve something right away. So making yourself more vulnerable in the work environment comes with building confidence. And I think that comes with age, because you start not giving a shit. You're just like, you know what? I don't care if that question is dumb. I don't care if they think I'm being too bullshit. I don't care if I'm, not articulating that perfectly. I'm not going to be embarrassed about it. I'm not going to be ashamed, because there's no need to be judged on it, because most of us are not even paying attention anyway. When you're in
Right.
the workspace,
Doodling. Yeah.
So whatever goof up you make, is forgotten very quickly, and allow yourself to make those goof ups.
Yes.
So kind of
But
that building that confidence to allow yourself to be vulnerable, and that helps with your growth, and that helps you be a better at your job.
Yeah. No, most certainly. Most certainly. All right. And when we were talking earlier, we also wondered, I mean, there are issues around fear, lack of control. You just also mentioned fear of being looked at as not very smart, not very knowledgeable. Let's talk about lack of control. This is a big one, isn't it? I know it's a big trigger for me, working from home with the kids, because so much of your mental sanity has to coexist with your children and around your children, because especially in this COVID environment, we're all having to see them a little more than usual. And this is really gonna make me sound like a bad mom, because here I am, big proponent of, oh, let's all work from home and let's have our children see our children, spend all our time with our children. But at the end of the day, reality is, man, I seem to do a lot better when my children can go for hours at a time. So I can just listen to myself and breathe. And when they come back, I feel like I'm a better mom. I can give better of myself to them, because I've replenished myself. So I think it's a bit,
Right.
I don't know, maybe we all feel different, but for me, I now know it to be the truth that, I couldn't live with my children 24/7 all the time. I'll have to cook them and eat them as much as I love them. I really would, because we're just on different wavelengths, and it takes a lot of energy to understand that, they are themselves and you don't have control over that. If they're going to get sick, they're going to get sick, and you can't control that. And if they're hungry, they're hungry.
Yeah.
You can train them to try and, learn how to feed themselves and whatnot. But all of this takes energy, you all. It takes a lot of effort. And on Facebook, we only post happy photos. But there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody openly shares. And I would hope that, if you're a mom out there or a dad and you're feeling overwhelmed, you will, take a bit of comfort in knowing that you're not alone. It's not, not everybody is always happy with their kids, if you like, it's, we all need a break from our kids. It's just the reality of it. Most of us do anyway.
Yeah, on the note of kids, I have to give my kids a bit of a shout out tonight because they're actually sitting over here playing nicely and not disturbing me, which is actually very very awesome. Hey,
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think about it, and it's not. We keep forgetting what is natural and normal and what isn't, and way back when we were cave people, up until we decided to confine ourselves in isolated homes with no community, we always, the kids were never sitting there with the parents the whole time. They were with a community. They were outside playing with other kids, or maybe they had 6, 7 sisters and brothers, or because the reality is, in a natural environment, you're not spending all that time with your kids because you have to find food, or you have to do the things that are important as the parent to make sure everybody survives. And it's also not natural for the kid to be following you around while you're sitting on a computer, or while you're trying to do your daily job, because normally they would be playing, and they would prefer to play with other kids. We're relatively boring in comparison because we don't have that same stamina, so we have to give ourselves a bit of slack when it comes to how much attention our kids actually expect, and how much we need to be giving them. Because
and how much we can take of all of that. I mean, there's the piece about them, there's a piece about us, right? And we tend to feel bad when we have to be talking about the piece about us, as if you signed away all your rights when you had kids, your rights to exist when you had kids. And yes, we choose to have kids, most of us. And I know it's not everybody in the world that chooses to, but I certainly know I chose to have my kids. I really wanted to have them when I did. So I take full responsibility, and I love them to bits. I would never trade them for the world. But all that said, there's no shame in saying, listen, this is tough. And sometimes I lose my shit. Oh no. You know what? I just did it again. YouTube doesn't like us using expletives. They actually quarantined our last episode because we had the F word in there. I just used the S word. I don't know if they're gonna let us show this show now.
I used to like 5 times. I had no idea there was a. Don't they do beep? Can we do beep?
Well, we would have to do it ourselves, but we got a bit slapped on the wrist from the last show. They're like, y'all use the F word. Woo!
Oh, that goes to show that someone's watching us out there. Isn't that great, Khutso? We actually have a bigger audience than we realized. Someone took the time, maybe it's a robot, but they took the time to go scroll through our script. And,
they did.
Check we may just have robots watching us, but we have something out there.
Yes. Well, we're getting a little bit off topic because I very passionately was trying to say sometimes I lose my blurb. and my beep. And I really think I'm sorry, Emily.
I didn't realize there was we couldn't say certain words. So now I know.
Yes, yes. But anyway, I forgot to share that with you last time. But anyway, where were we? The kids, lack of control, um, just being honest that, it's not all rosy like we have it on Facebook. All of us love our children, very few people don't. Uh, but it's a truth that they really can drive you to a breaking point with their needs.
Yeah.
And they do, it can't get into the debate about what's good parenting, what's bad parenting. We all do our best, really, and we all believe in what we believe in. And at the end of the day, regardless of what you believe in, there's still the reality of what you can do. My husband and I we have long conversations about parenting. And the other day we were both admitting that, there's the perfect script, this is how you're going to raise your kid, and then reality. And when reality hits, it's like, what happened to the script? Because you're just so exhausted. You're trying to juggle so many things around the household. You're trying to keep them fed. You're trying to keep them clothed. You're trying to keep them from killing each other and themselves. And there's just a lot to juggle, and then you have your own woes to worry about too. You need to exercise, you need to eat, you need to sleep. And just it really takes a certain level of magic, near magic, to be able to implement that script, that perfect parenting script, which I'm sure we all have. Everybody knows how to parent, right? Not, but even if you did have such a script, it's near impossible to implement it 24/7, especially when you have multiple kids. And you know what we were wondering? Why it is that, the same parents will raise two kids, same household, same lifestyle, same everything, but then the two kids will have totally different experiences, and they'll feel differently towards the way they were raised. Some will flourish and others will just get depressed and hate it. And as a parent, you've just got to understand that the best you can do is the best you can do. The most you can do is the best you can do, or something like that. You can only do what you can do, right? And you can only do what you can do. And they'll figure it out as they grow. If they're unhappy, there's plenty of time for them to heal themselves, really. But there's only so much you can do. And that's
I have another good friend, and
sorry, go ahead.
I have another good friend. I love this quote from another good friend of mine. She said, this was back in the earlier days of the kids being toddlers, and she said, Emily, just don't worry about it. No matter what you're gonna do, no matter what you do, you're gonna screw your kids up.
I just said that to my husband like yesterday. That is no matter how.
It's quite. No. We're not having that right now. Thank you. Yeah. No. It's funny. Sometimes the harder you try, the worse you make it, and that comes back to letting go. Giving yourself the opportunity to just let go of it, and within a reasonable way, just realizing you can't control everything. And I think that often, I think that's often coming back to our meltdown, our breakdowns. You hit this peak of, okay, you're trying to control, and then something just makes it impossible for you to control anymore. Like the government saying they're going to lock you down. Like, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. You race through your brain. Okay, what are all the possibilities? Maybe I can leave the country. Maybe I can, just whatever, get someone in the house to live with me or whatever. And then you realize there's nothing I can do. And when you come to that point of there's nothing you can do, you just have to cope. That's when your brain just starts reshuffling itself around. And then immediately it gives you, okay, if there's nothing I can do, this is what I'm going to do now to control the situation. Because if you're anything like me, you're going to control the situation. Okay.
We need
So
to
my
contain
situation is
this thing, right? We need to contain this thing.
you're not going to beat me. I'm going to be in control.
Oh man. Oh gosh, that the many ways we make our lives complicated. But there's such wisdom in learning the art of letting go. I find I
Mm.
know I've had lots of reprieve, lots of peace of mind from exactly what you say. Just surrender. Just surrender. You know what?
Yeah.
And realize, I'll give you an example with my worries around money as a businesswoman. I remember saying to myself, listen, the very same clients I have right now came out of exactly what I'm doing now. There'll be others. They'll come from wherever, right? So just surrender to the process and understand that life is magical. Things always work out. And just trust the journey and
Mm.
just relax and surrender. It's not to say, go do nothing, although sometimes truly that is what you ought to do. When you're really, having your meltdown, just go sleep. You know,
Yeah.
really go sleep, go take a nap. But even while you're proactively trying to do things, surrender to the journey. Really just surrender. Let go. And let's let go around kids and parenting and stuff. You do your best and just let go. And sometimes they're going to make the house messy, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Let go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's deciding within yourself what you're willing to let go of and what you really do want to still continue to. Because at the end of the day, you don't achieve something without trying and trying again and, without failing continuously until you finally succeed. And it's just a matter of which path is most important for you to continue, to continue with that fight. I remember once, just to show my level of determination, I ran a marathon and I was injured. I actually had a stress fracture. And as I was running this marathon, I was determined to get to continue I was not going to let the fact that I was injured defeat me. But as I was running further and further into the marathon, my time was slower and slower. And I got to like 2K before the finish line, maybe 5K, and I pulled out. And I pulled out not because I couldn't finish, but I pulled out because my ego wouldn't let me cross the line at that slow of a pace.
Oh my
And
God, Emily.
that's kind
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, keep going. Yes.
I love how you're like, and then you're like, what?
And I'm a runner, but I think you're like, way on a different level. But with your running.
And,
Yes. And
that's exactly it. Like what are you going to push to the finish line, potentially broken, and what are you going to stop and redo, and what are you going to let go of? You have those three levels of achievement, I guess, or perseverance. Maybe I'm off track. Maybe I'm just showing that I'm crazy.
well, like all of us are, right? I mean, all of us are, for better or worse. I'm sorry, Emily?
Maybe I'm just showing I have a big ego.
Well, don't we all? Don't we all? I think all of us have got this and that. And a shout out to whoever's there. We've got a few people. Thanks for joining us. And Emily's gone. Well, I have lost Emily. Figures. But well, I'm not sure who's there. If you are actively watching, feel free to drop us a message. Let us know you're there. Let us know what your recent experiences have been around breakdowns, meltdowns, and maybe how you picked yourself up, if you like, because that's the topic of the day. And we're really going towards the end of our show today. Emily's back. There is Emily again. I'd be very curious to know who's there. Hi. We lost you there for a split second. Was that your battery?
No, it just shut down all of a sudden.
Yeah. No, I was welcoming. I know.
I thought we got kicked out for all our profanity.
Oh, I see what you mean. The S word, F word. I see Fatima is on. Hi, Fatima. Thanks for chiming in. Fatima is a good friend of mine here in South Africa. So she and I do a lot of coffees, and when we have our breaking points, it's like, Fatima, did you know? I'm about to go crazy right now. So she's a wonderful friend. Anyway, anything else, or should we just get ready to wrap it up? Let's see. What did we offer by way of positive messaging in terms of how a person can pick themselves up? I think we talked about quite a few things. Yes, everything from, take a break, give yourself the permission to be vulnerable and do whatever it takes to feel better. Reach out to support, let go, understand that you don't have to be in control all the time, and trust the universe, trust that things are going to be okay, and things are already okay. Focus on the present. Nothing like focusing on the present, because that helps you control your mind. It doesn't let your mind run too much into the anxious future if you're anxious about it. And exercise, do whatever it takes to get physical activity that can help. Meditate, the big one.
Meditate.
Emily? Did you say vegetate? And I said meditate? Vegetate too. Right?
You turned it into a positive. I said vegetate. You said meditate.
Vegetate.
Take
and
it how
meditate.
You want to take it. Meditatively vegetate.
That's right. That's
right. Yeah, keep going. You're doing a great job here.
No way. But that's because I have a list, that I wrote down as we were chatting. And then with regards to hormones, just, that relates to hormones and triggers in general. Just be aware of your triggers. Yes. And your triggers could be anything from hormones to, I've got money anxieties, or, I've got insecurities around this and that. And when you catch yourself diving into that spiral, that's a good time to distract yourself with something. Either you change route, focus on the present, meditate, vegetate, listen to music, distract yourself.
To our podcast.
Listen to our podcast. Yeah. And really realize this too shall pass. I cannot begin to tell you the difference, how different I feel, between 2 days sometimes when the world is pretty much the same. It's like the one day you react in a very visceral sort of way towards circumstances, and then the next day the exact same circumstances don't bother you.
Yeah.
Like,
right,
wow,
exactly.
look, this is not a big deal. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yes. And when it's PMS, just realize, it is PMS. And yes, I am going to overreact. And it's okay. Just don't make big decisions. Don't make big decisions. Not permanent big decisions anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to put I'm gonna put these little ones to bed.
Yeah.
The next time we will make sure that my lighting and so on is and my sound is better. So apologies if there are any distractions with that, but it's part of the process of global
Well,
interaction.
yeah, well, it's pretty late over there too, huh? I'm cheating because it's only, 9:45 a.m. here. So I'm nice and fresh.
Yeah.
Maybe my Wi-Fi is also nice and fresh. But who knows? I mean, this is so weird because this has never happened before with your camera. And I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Mind of its
All
own. Lack
right.
of control.
Lack of control. Surrender. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Let it go. Let it go. All right.
Mama.
Well, thank
Mama.
Hey,
Okay.
Kira. Well, I think Kira's ready for bed. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And don't
Bye.
forget to hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Mommy.
Okay, let's go to bed.